I think this actually gets us like right on time too. Pre-scheduled stuff here. Interesting.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Better?
Speak again. Let's see.
Testing.
Ah,
Is
so
that
much
better?
better. Yeah, you're out of the tin can now.
Yeah, but now I've got. Let's see here. I think it's because I opened it up in the Brave browser and didn't realize it.
Ah.
Brave.
You know what, Jeff? We might have stumbled on something here that works a little better than what we've been doing.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. So, like, Restream is forcing us to do it as an event now, whereas we used to just go live and pop right out there.
Yeah, I kept getting a notice on Facebook saying that we were going live in 3 minutes, and I've never gotten that before.
Yeah, it's because it's an event, but it looks like Ecamm hooks right into it too. So,
cool.
For anyone wondering, we were scrambling 15 minutes ago as I get into Restream and see it's a whole new UI and all new functionality, and what is this going to do?
Got it.
But this might be the way.
There we go. All right. All right. Eric, my wife said that you had reached out to her.
Yeah, she got back to me. She actually asked me to give her a call. I told her I would try to reach out later today.
She's got SEO questions.
Cool.
Just basic stuff. Okay.
That's awesome. I didn't even know she was over there. That's great.
Yeah, she's been over there for, I believe, a good 2 years, maybe a little longer. She was with Cars, and then Cars did that big change, and she was with them for like a year and a half, and she got laid off. And then through some different connections she had at her dealerships with Cars.com, got a connection through Ford.
Here we go, guys.
And yeah, and just.
All right, there we are.
It's 3 years next month. She just corrected me.
Very nice. Well, congrats, Brandy.
Alex says he can hear me chewing my gum.
Yes.
I swallow it.
Well, we know what you do to.
That was really uncalled for. Eric, what's going on?
Jeff, how are you?
Watch some Austin
I was
Powers.
Doing well until yeah, I was doing well until that comment came my way.
Alex coming out with the heat right away.
Well, Eric,
so Eric,
welcome back.
What's been up? Yeah, welcome back. And what's going on in your neck of the woods?
Well, great to see you. First off, thank you for inviting me back. It's been a little bit. It's always
we never
to see my friends at DealerRefresh.
You always have a standing invitation, my friend. You don't have to worry about that.
I appreciate that. Great to see you. God, so much is going on. Everybody's got something crazy going on. But the world.
You mentioned something about we could just get started off with politics and religion.
Yeah, though, why not start off with something that makes everybody feel comfortable?
Yeah, let's do that.
So.
I like it.
Yeah. So we've been at Dealer Teamwork, we've had so much stuff going on. Obviously, everybody else is too, but major changes across the board. We don't need to get into the minutia with the industry. Everybody's aware of the main talking points, usual suspects. So with that, though, from our perspective, we just had to roll with those punches. We had to change processes. Unfortunately, we had to change some people around as well, and just change our philosophy. And we needed to look at not only the process, but look at how we're serving the customers. The better we can serve a customer, the better they can sell to their customers as well. And so we flipped the entire script around. So follow along real quick. I'll explain it like this. We reverse engineered everything. We started off hopefully in a completely different direction than everybody else has been recently. And we started at the end point and just started looking at what do we want to get out of this? Okay, what is the end point, the end game for the customer? What are those outcomes? And so we knew right away that in order for us to get to that point very first, Jeff, we had to become much more analytic based and much more data driven. And so we've really, I hate to use the word pivot, but that's essentially what we did. We changed course quite a bit. So now we're much more data driven based, making just better decisions off of what the activity is. And that allowed us to ultimately come up with a much better list of the outcomes that we're looking to try to measure. And we relied obviously on people like yourself. We looked at our client base, our friends and our supporters, and we got incredible feedback. Sean and myself and James, we don't have all the answers, and we don't claim to be the end all be all. But what we are good at is just simply the active listening skill side of it. That's honestly what I like to pride myself on, is just being able to listen to what somebody wants, and then being able to make the right decisions and get the right people around us to help those dealers get to the facts and data that really matter at the end of the day. I try to put my dealer hat back on every single day. When I'm talking to dealers as well. My old adage. Remember back when we were speaking together, Jeff? It was DISC. Does it sell cars? And if I'm just sitting here as a vendor personally, and I'm sitting there talking to a dealer, telling them about, these fluff activities, does that, you have to ask yourself, does it actually help sell a car? In terms of if you're going to have a meeting with a customer and just talk about how many pages they viewed, and you're just going to stop the conversation there, or as an exaggeration point, but to talk about little fluff vanity metrics like that don't actually end up causing a revenue producing activity, what's the point of the call? We hear it all the time. So we're other vendors that talk to our friends, they're like, the customers just don't want to show up to the calls. I hate to say it, but if a customer doesn't show up to a call, there's probably a reason. And right now it's not like everybody's got that many appointments, based on inventory levels, but probably because the call isn't that good. I hate to say it like that, but that's unfortunately what it is. So again, we reverse engineered that entire process and just said, what do we want to get out of this? And so that's the long point of that story, is that we want to be able to deliver the obviously much better products and services to the things that matter to the dealers right now. And what matters the most right now? It's the organic traffic to be able to drive the very best results. We've said this ad nauseum, guys. Everybody has heard this. Organic is the biggest traffic segment. So let's just break that down right away. Everybody knows it's their biggest segment. They already know. They stay longer.
But do they know that? Do dealerships really know that organic search is their biggest segment?
That's a great side of it too, is that they've heard it, but they've never been able to draw the connection to it. Why?
Exactly.
Because again, we've been indoctrinated as an industry that the only solution that you have at the end of the day is just take more of your hard-earned money and plow it into this campaign and spend more money. And if a dealer really wants to, just take a look in your analytics. Somebody can help you with this. I'm sure somewhere in the store, or any of your other vendors can help you find it if you can't. If you truly can't get to it, just call me. I'll help. But it's simple. Look at your traffic channel breakdown. What's the percentage of traffic coming from organic, from direct, from social, from email? Maybe have some stuff in the other category, the junk drawer, as we call it. Bottom line is you need to start there. That's a perfect example of the philosophy. And so by understanding those types of concepts, and again, for those dealers that do know that already, my question to everybody then is, what are you doing to impact that even more. If you're, again, let's just say hypothetically your organic traffic is 41% of your total overall incoming traffic. And then if you look at those behaviors, it'll all correlate as well. You've got, again, they stay longer, they bounce less, they convert at higher rates, they look at more pages, blah, blah, blah. Well,
It's never changed, has it?
No, not really. If it has, I missed it, but by and large, it has. That's been the norm. So knowing that very simple fact, why wouldn't you want to investigate, even if you don't know anything about that? Why wouldn't you want to investigate and say to yourself, how do I get more of that traffic? Instead, the philosophy is, well, let's just keep plowing more into these other channels. And unfortunately, you get people that do that, and then they don't take the same time to even look at the activity and the behavior and the outcomes from those other channels. So all they're doing is just, I like to call it product stacking, and you're not taking inventory or inspecting what you actually have in place.
SEO doesn't hit the attribution reports as cleanly as some of the other components, so that's why.
That's exactly what I was going to say, Alex. Dealerships still have the 30-day mentality, month to month. And a lot of times, if you've got your budget set towards email campaigns or even paid search, it just seems, or video, anything that, that they can attribute back to that sale, whereas organic is a whole nother beast. And, it's funny because my wife, we were on the phone or we were discussing something the other day around organic. She's like, how do I step into a dealership and talk organic search? And, what should the dealerships do? What, what's the most important thing? What are some of the, top things that a dealership should be looking for, or how to implement some type of organic SEO campaign? And I'm like, I always have the same answer. Very few dealerships have someone in-house that's capable of doing that, especially if it's a single point. Now, if you got maybe a group, maybe, obviously some of your larger groups is going to have someone in-house to at least manage that. But my answer is just outsource it. Call Eric Miltsch. Just outsource, because most dealerships don't have a solid grasp on organic SEO.
You're absolutely right. And I don't know if you saw Ryan's comment there. That's just spot on. There's a perfect example of a fantastic internal situation. Not all dealers are that fortunate to have that internal structure. But kudos to Ryan and his group there at Garber, for him to be able to put an initiative into that. I don't see the comment anymore, but I think it was something along the lines of reducing paid search by 80% over 3 years. That's phenomenal. We've had multiple groups that, came to us as well and said, do we have to keep paying for this? Do we have to keep spending for this? And so, that was, part of the impetus for us to go in and investigate how we can expand that. And so we took that same approach, Jeff, and we worked backwards from that and said, how can we leverage both organic and paid and social and organic all together within our platform? And that's where we came up with it. And we started testing this out about, almost like 2 years ago, even pre-COVID. And then unfortunately that hit, but it actually played out very, very well. And just, I think Ryan even said in his comment, this whole COVID reset's making everybody think differently, and it's accelerating, as we've said before, the understanding of so many other different complex ideas. And this is a perfect example of that. So, in these cases where these dealers have come to us, Jeff, where they've said, what do we have to measure? What do we have to do? How do we internally manage it? What do our call cadence have to be like? There's a lot of resets to that as well. So you take a simple initiative, reduce your reliance on paid search, and then start backfilling it. It's like a scale, and you'll start eventually seeing the scales, start to even out. One of the best examples I ever turn back to, Jeff, is the fact that, way back in the day at Auction Direct, I did all that stuff, and it was laying the foundation. And I use it still to this day. And I know it seems like an old archaic reference, but it's not, because of the fact of the SEO equity that has been built into that. Anywhere in Rochester now, you do a search for anything along the line of used cars, trade-ins, anything like that. multiple pages still come up. It's not the
Really?
same exact page, obviously, but it's the foundational elements that were put into those, and the initial structure, and that's why that stuff sticks. And that's, again, no dealer likes to say, all right, I'm going to do this today and plant, and we're going to have success in 10 years.
Well, and
Obviously, like
that's
you
what I
said,
was saying earlier. It's that 30-day window. It's the month to
right?
month. They don't think about, let's plant these seeds, and a year from now, we're going to benefit. Dealerships just struggle with that thought process.
Well, it's also the paid search is kind of it's a drug for sure. So you first start with it, you throw $500 at it, let's say, and you're paying $1 a click. I'm just working with easy numbers here, and you got a 2%
What year are we
conversion
in?
ratio. Well, this is a while ago, but if that's the case, and you're generating leads off of it directly, they're coming from there. And when you usually start with a small budget. So it's like, oh man, I got all these leads for this small budget, and now 10 years later, just chasing that drug of trying to get leads to the right ROI or whatnot. And the people selling paid search are always going to tell you spend more, spend more, spend more. So you listen, you keep doing it, and that's how you get these big ass budgets. But I wouldn't say I like what Ryan has done here, and he's cut it 80%. I don't know if they went through that heroin of paid search in that process, but you still want it as part of your mix, just like you'd never want to get rid of SEO as part of your mix. It's just a matter of how much of the mix do you want to spend. Is always with marketing. It's always the weight being balanced there. But
yeah, I would say leading probably about a year before COVID, so it's been about 3 years. We cut out our paid search for a short period. Or really, it wasn't a short period. I would say, it was almost 3 years that we dropped it, and we did not get back into it until maybe several months ago. We jumped back into paid search, but only with a $500 budget.
Well,
That was it.
another aspect of that too, Alex, to your point, just the transition. A lot of dealers just haven't had the awareness or the exposure to a complete integrated solution. Like you said, they come in with one magic bullet and they run with that. And I love the fact that you even made the comment, you still need it. Now, we've had dealers that have turned off 100% at times. But again, month to month, something may change. It could be a new vehicle. It could be a new page. It could be a new campaign.
You might be turning 166% of your inventory.
Exactly. So the thing is, you have to be able to backfill those what I like to call just organic visibility gaps. If you don't show up for it, you can at least put a Band-Aid on it, deploy the paid search, obviously, and get a short-term hit. But hopefully the right things are happening consistently over the next 30, 60, 90 days for whatever new organic page, new content, new integration with the site. And with that, again, there's your scale effect. It starts to balance out. Now you start pulling that back, and you start relying on that. But again, Jeff, back to our original comment. If you haven't done the reverse engineering aspect of it, what do you want out of it? What are you looking to accomplish? Some dealers may notice, hey, how come the 2 stores across town have this type of page? And, every time I turn around and I do a search, I see something, related to them in this page online. Well, obviously, if you see that type of stuff, that should be part of the mix. But again, what are you measuring? What are you cleaning up? What are you fixing? What are you driving towards? What type of topics and keywords and questions need to be included? It's not just as simple as a singular tactic that will wind up making the entire thing go away, or making the entire problem go away and solve it. It's got to be, like I said, a consistent effort with that. And again, things have changed to the point where I think it's more about the awareness and the speed at which this information is being passed along, and playing a very, very unfortunate game of telephone throughout the industry. But the fact remains, the organic is there. It's not going away. People always say, "Oh, SEO is dead." I think I used that in my blog for you a couple of years ago. Well, no, SEO is dead. If there's a search engine, there's going to be a need for optimization for the search engine. It's just understanding what their current rules are, what they're looking for, the different dynamics of the ad placement, the different the different organic units. The PAA people also ask, the knowledge panels. Snippets were a big thing for a little while. Then Google realized they were cutting our nose off to spite our face with those. We show them, people get their answer, they don't even click through. And then obviously,
what's a snippet? Explain what a snippet is.
If you do a search for, do a search for how much does a Jeep Wrangler cost? You might see a
the little questions that are sort of down below.
That's the PAA. People also ask. You'll see a bigger, richer snippet of an organic result. They called it position 0 for a time. But the thing is, it's so helpful. Like you search for something like how to make. You'll see that.
Yeah, I found myself using the PAA actually quite a bit, and not even realize that I'm using it. I don't want to say I'm out of the SEO game, but I've definitely haven't kept up with it over the years. And I tell you, one of the reasons is I used to be so strong in SEO. I used to be so focused on it, organic wise. And what I found was, and I'm sure I can speak for a lot of other dealerships and why organic SEO sort of went down, my chart of importance, is because I found that all the other companies, third-party companies, whether it's a listing site like cars.com or, Car and Driver, one of those magazine sites, they just got their shit together. And now I found it so difficult for a dealership to break through into that top 5, top 6 search results, unless it's a local. If someone's just typing in, for example, with my, Hagerstown Mercedes, we're going to show up every single time. But when it comes down to more of your long tail or vehicle specific, man, it's so difficult anymore. I don't know how you guys are able. You must have some secret sauce to be able to penetrate through there. I guess after a while, I sort of got frustrated and was like, okay, yeah, I can still throw together a quick model page. I can optimize it. I can get, do all the best practices, and I can get it to rank. But what I found was the traffic that it was pulling, it wasn't quality traffic in the sense that these people were in my backyard and they were actually going to come to the dealership and buy a car. Yes, I know we've got digital retailing now, and obviously people are willing to travel for the right vehicle, especially if it's a pre-owned. Right now, they'll travel 1,000 miles for the right new car. But it's once I broke that traffic out, I was like, all right, is this really worth all this effort into SEO? So, if I was a client and I was coming to you and I had this exact same issue, like how do you overcome that? How do you sell the SEO to a dealership with someone that has, the feedback that I just gave you?
Yeah, that's awesome setup, Jeff. It really is. And that's one of the biggest misperceptions or misunderstandings of the whole approach these days. So let me answer your question like this, very simple and direct. First off, anybody worth their weight in gold is going to want to take a look at what's actually happening with the site health, okay? Technical SEO is a major component. There's a lot of little things in there. If you want to read about it, go look for Google ranking factors. There's a million different charts and graphs on it. But the bottom line is, at the end of the day, Google just simply wants to make sure your site is healthy, okay? And if you're not feeling good, Alex, if your back's hurting, you're going to go to the doctor. He's going to want to do a checkup on you before he can make.
What if it has COVID?
What's that?
He probably does.
Oh, your site? Yeah. Well, if your site's got it, again, that's why you go to the doctor. You want to get it checked out. And we'll be able to find that. And again, I'm not talking about the million different, fluffy type of audit mistakes and errors and warnings that show up from every audit tool. I'm talking about the stuff that actually makes a difference at the end of the day in the eyes of Google in terms of broken pages, 404s, slow loading times, things that can actually be impacted, or just weaker internal anchor links, whatever, anything like that. Though I know it seems inconsequential in the grand scheme of thing, but at the end of the day, it does make a difference. So then once you go through that step, number 2, then it's just all about taking inventory of what's actually happening in the site. What are your top pages? What's the behavior on those pages? So a real quick example. Did one recently for a store about 90 days ago. The site was part of a group. They were the only one with an average bounce rate for the entire site of about 72%. Way too high, obviously.
Yeah.
Okay. So we went through, we found where the culprit was, and there were a bunch of just low quality content pages that while they answered the user's question, they were driving nationwide traffic.
That's always the struggle. Yeah.
So what happened, just like you said, traffic came in, and they even stayed, they stayed around for a couple minutes. They got the answer to their question, but what did they do after that? They bounced, because
It's what we do.
It solved their problem. But there were no internal links, no call to action, no localization, a bunch of other errors associated with it. But again, you wouldn't know that unless you start at the end. What is it that you want to get? You want better local quality traffic, better organic placement. And then obviously after that, again, some things that dealers may not be aware of, but just that internal structure aspect of it. So that's what we did. We took a look at it, ripped it all apart, rewrote a bunch of stuff.
Internal structure aspect. Enlighten me a little bit.
So real simple item. That page that we found, it may not even, in this case, it wasn't even linking to another page. Another page wasn't even linking to that. So think of it like this.
Okay.
Google sees that as an island unto itself.
Yep.
That's it.
Just
and so
separate, like its own little website, or it's just a separate page.
So think how Google thinks. Google thinks in entities, people, places, things, concepts. They think like that. Now, the more people, places, and things that you can connect with, because I could write a page all about a Jaguar. If I wasn't specific enough, neither you nor Google would know, am I talking about a football team, an animal, or a car? Make sense? So you have to be a little bit more specific. Same with a table. It could be a coffee table that Alex makes, or it could be a dev table, that a developer would be using. You just have to be specific enough with it. And that's typically, that's a very typical problem that we could come across. And again, I also associate that with one of the common myths that dealers have, is that they would have to, that they think they can do it all on their own. Again, I'm not taking away from anybody's abilities, but I also know that when I have a toothache, I don't do my own dentistry at home. I don't have a kit for that. I go see a professional for that. Same with car service. I'll fill up the air in my tires, but I'm not going to go any further than that. It's not my
shame on you, Eric. I thought you were a man.
There is a question from the audience. Rick Buffkin here, throw it on the screen. He wants to know if it's still worth the effort to keep a blog.
Awesome question.
That's a good question.
So here's a fast answer for you. Yes, absolutely. But again, it comes back to that structure. Don't just write a post about how to change the battery in your key fob and leave it at that, with no call to action, no specific make model link, no video on the page. Again, no localization added to it. There's so many other things that you can do to make that post stand out in the eyes of Google. Because what do you want? You at least want to help people in your local market. That's the ultimate goal. Again, you want to sell a car to every person in your market, hopefully, but it's not going to do you any good if you're in Miami and you're getting traffic from North Dakota.
How do you fix that? What do you do, on page or maybe off page SEO? What's some of the quickest way of fixing that? Is it just keywords, for your local area, just local town name, city name?
On that, just the on-page activity, page titles, section headers, again, keywords in the copy, even just the general length of the copy. don't make a blog post that's 200, 300, 400 words. If you want to make don't think of it like when you were a kid and you did your homework and your parents told you, hey, it's not long enough. Use full sentences, use full descriptions, things like that. You have to be, it's got to be high quality. That's what Google's looking at. I know, again, we've said this for years, Jeff, the acronym EAT, expert, authoritative, and trustworthy content. That's all Google's looking for. And it doesn't mean you have to be a publisher like Road and Track to get that EAT type of status, but you can certainly become, at least a memorable experience for a local dealership. You get enough of those hits, people will eventually, come back and visit again, or they will look at, the content, or they will use that as a trusted resource. And again, I know it's a little bit more of that long game mentality that dealers don't like to adopt and use, but it does work, but more importantly, that structure aspect of it, again, copy, titles, just the metadata, it's nothing.
Is metadata still important?
Well, I refer metadata as the page title.
Okay.
That's the important item. But
what about header 1, 2, 3? Is that still important?
It's still a component of it, and they all have their varying degrees of importance. They all have their various, weighting factors. But my point here in the big picture of thing, guys, is just, hit everything. If you're going to cross your I's and dot your T's, and all that stuff, that's the way you want to do it. You want to. So
you obviously, you provide this service for dealerships. Is there a checklist or something like that you guys have on your website that you share? Maybe it's just the top 5 or 6 things to look at. Again, if you ask me, outsource it. But, and you touched on this a few seconds ago, or what did you call it? The landscape or the layout, having good, clean call to actions. I mean, I've probably over, the last 10 years or more working with different vendors on organic SEO, honestly, has pretty much been a nightmare. Now, it's a nightmare for me because I know how to call out the bullshit. I know how to look at that and go, well, why are you doing it like this? Like, you're just throwing words together. I don't know if you're throwing it into, a spin program and then add a photo, a few tags here, and boom, you've got, a beautiful looking organic page that is doing absolutely nothing for you. Maybe it's indexing, great. But like you said earlier, it's like, okay, so you get a page to index. What's next? And almost every single vendor, it's like they hired an intern to run the spin software, throw it up on the blog or on a separate page, and now we're done with it. And I'd find myself schooling some of these, these companies that we would have, be like, well, how are they going to get to our inventory? Okay, so we answered the question, but don't we want them to get into our search results? Don't we want to land them on a VDP if it's a landing page for a specific make model? And it's like I'd have to go every single time. I'd have to go back in and clean it up and put some call to actions, maybe have a small little inventory plugin or something like that. And it's just simple stuff sometimes. And it just blows my mind how many vendors out there, services out there that just do.
Jeff, if they were using interns, that would be an upgrade. That's outsourced to India.
It. Yeah.
No, it absolutely is. I might know of yeah.
So Jeff, you raised a great point though. So in that situation, and I'm sure everybody can relate to, what do you do? First off, compare it to you should at least be getting a comparison for those target keywords against your local competitors. Okay. They don't have to be the same brand. How would you do that? I'm sorry?
How would you do that?
The tracking software. There's multiple platforms that will do that. Whether it's Ahrefs, SEMrush, Raven. There's a bunch of great there's wonderful tools that will be able to provide that.
Again, a dealership's not going to have that stuff. They're not going to invest because they're expensive. Some of those are expensive tools.
They're very, very, very costly. But it comes down to being able to track those items, because again, let's take something that would make sense to any dealer listening in. Okay, Ford Service Center, Ford Service Department. Okay, every that's how customers search. So wouldn't it make sense, obviously, if you're a Ford dealer or any dealer, to make sure that your service center, service department, whatever you want to call it, well, first off, you'd want to know what's being searched in your market. Who are the other local players that rank for that term? And then what do I need to do? Again, work backwards from it, Jeff. Do the math backwards and figure out, okay, which variable is missing? Well, first off, do I even have a page for it? Do I even have these? Do they have any merit? Sorry, I got thrown off by Drew's question. I have to address this. All those SEO tools are additional costs, and frankly, are not made for a highly localized dealer. Well, no, I don't think I'm not saying the dealer should use those tools, because unless you're in a situation like Ryan Everson, where you can have a cost center that can afford and afford that. So you find a solution from a vendor that's actually using tools that will move the needle. That's the key. So again, these are great comments today. Bookmark Ryan's, and we'll come back to that. But the point is, you need to know what your local competitors are ranking against. Okay, and you watch those every single month. I share that. I share that type of info with all of our SEO clients. They know what their competitors are, who they're fighting against. For used, for sale, for lease.
Uh-oh. Right in mid-sentence.
Yeah. Wow. Eric needs to pay his electric bill or something.
His internet bill.
I was going to ask him, about the future. So if we can get him to head down that path, what he sees.
The future. That could be scary, Alex.
Well, you think about, and I realized this as you guys were talking about snippets. I was like, hold on. Snippets. I haven't been on Google, and I can't tell you how long. I switched over to DuckDuckGo a few years back. So I'll go over to Google if I'm like not happy with the DuckDuckGo results. But it's been a long time since I haven't been happy with them. So, I mean, I use the hell out of YouTube, so Google still gets my.
I know. Same here.
Yeah, still gets me somehow, but I just don't use their search engine at all.
Yeah, I don't either. Was using DuckDuckGo. I still use DuckDuckGo because I got the plug-in on the Chrome browser. But then you start going down that rabbit hole, and you're just like, man, you shouldn't even be using Chrome. I mean, not if you want to keep anything to yourself, or you don't want to be targeted with every single ad in the world. So I started using also started using the Brave browser and search as well. And that's just more about the times that we're in right now, because you get so much, everything's run by, there's a narrative out there, and it seems like that narrative, no matter what you search, it carries over into whatever topic or subject, that you're going to search for. But here, I'm texting Eric.
He's probably still yapping. Doesn't even realize he's still
Nah, he knows. He said his internet froze.
Ah.
I was going to ask him too, like, this new thing. I don't know. I guess search. I guess that's all going to be gaming. But I was thinking about the metaverse and how I'm going to stay away from that. But I wonder if there's going to be any. I mean, I can definitely see there's going to be some type of search protocol, for metaverse, for social, unless it'll just all be paid. All right, he's getting unable.
Well, you know how we were all excited about like voice search last year or the year before because of all the Alexa and Google Voice devices. Yeah. I guess Meta is going to be like eye search, so it's watching where your eyes are going in the VR device or whatever. And I don't know.
Well, that's true.
To optimize our images now.
Yeah.
Everything's going to be a bikini shot. Try to attract the eyeballs.
He's saying Ecamm won't let him in.
Oh, interesting. Well,
I was just checking in on it. Huh. We've never had an issue with Ecamm.
yeah. No,
First
I don't
time.
even have anything over here saying block Eric Miltsch. I wish I did.
Well, what's some of the other questions or comments that we're getting?
Rick just came in with how to get specific site links to show up under your listings.
Oh, see, that's a great question for Eric. I mentioned it earlier. I was so hardcore SEO, and I know you were too back in the day. I mean, when you were at the dealership.
Shoot, I'm married to an SEO specialist.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, can't get away from it.
Nope.
But I don't want to say I lost. I love back in the day when you could throw up a page and just get it perfect, and you within an hour or sometimes less, it would index, and it was like your final product. Being able to see that page out there, in the internet, and be able to code that page, or just get the right specific keywords, and boom, have that, and then look in your analytics and be able to see, man, this is really working. I always go back. This is a fun story. I always enjoy this story, but I haven't told it in a long time. So whenever I was at the Volkswagen dealership, I was selling Volkswagens, and the Jetta Wolfsburg edition had just come out. And I had my own website. It was VW Volkswagen, VWrep.com. And
I remember that.
Yeah, no one had anything like this, an individual salesperson having his own website. And I had put together a page around the Wolfsburg. And, I had images. SEO was like in the very beginning. I didn't even know what SEO was. I was just putting together a page on my website, dedicated to the Jetta Wolfsburg. And out of nowhere, I'd start getting these phone calls from people in Florida.
Or Drew Ament is calling you, apparently.
Yes, I was VW rep. Yeah. I've every now and then I'll run across a car. It's been a little while, but I used to put my stickers on there, VWrep.com, a little vinyl sticker on every car I sold. Up until a few years ago, I'd still run across an old Jetta running around, or an old GTI running around with that sticker on it. Unbelievable. But anyways, I get all these phone calls from all over the place, and I wasn't paying attention. Like, I didn't know what was going on. I wasn't even paying attention. And, my manager, Gary, comes and goes, you've sold every Wolfsburg that we've gotten in. He's like, you've got orders for Wolfsburgs. He's like, what's going on? I'm like, I don't know, but just everyone that comes in, or every phone call I get, a lot of these people are like hundreds of miles away, and they want to buy a Wolfsburg. And it took months. I think I ended up reading an article about SEO and how to optimize a page, and the results, what it could be. Again, I mean, we're talking 1999, 2000, 2001 through 3, maybe somewhere back then. So, I mean, but the basics still haven't changed. We've got a few more layers now. I mean, I know links back then were still important. Page structure was still important. Inbound links were still important. That whole on page really hasn't changed that much. No. The only thing that's changed, and this is what I was saying earlier, and he keeps getting the same area.
Yeah, I'm still looking for the setting that says block Eric Miltsch. I'm not finding it. He should be able to hop right in. But I like the comments that are coming in, and it's pretty funny. You and Drew should probably connect off the show, because he said he was going up against you with some things that customers would say to him.
Oh, really? Heck, maybe. You never know. He and I could have had a phone call 20 years ago and didn't even realize it.
Also interesting, some of the other comments. I mean, Chris Leslie and Kevin Fry. And Kevin Fry, like, he's definitely taken a pretty strong stance here.
Yeah, I wasn't seeing his comments because it comes across too fast, and I'm reading some other stuff here to keep up with Eric. What was he saying? I saw something about video.
So he was saying that some of the money that you might normally spend on SEO with a vendor would be better spent on video, and then generating a lot more impressions that are more localized. I think it was something like that in his comment before.
Okay.
Yeah, and I got to agree with Anthony a minute ago. The comments today are meant.
He's saying it's connecting, but it just keeps spinning. Remember we had that issue a couple times? I had that issue specifically.
Well, I got to say, like, when it comes to SEO, there's a foundation. Like, first off, the website needs to be done in such a way so that your foundational items, especially your cars, are doing the right thing. And I think, like, what website provider today doesn't have that foundation? So it's not even a worry anymore. So then, it's like, I guess it makes a little sense to put some money into it. I would agree with that. You have somebody who's going through and at least monitoring, making sure, like, okay, so if you typically get 40% of your traffic from organic and it drops down to 30% and you're not, capable of measuring this stuff yourself, somebody's sounding that alarm for you. They're going through and maybe doing new optimizations on things that are important to your business. But like if you're paying for like 2 blogs a month or 2 blog articles a month and that kind of stuff, I don't know what that kind of value truly is. Right.
Yeah. That's how a lot of vendors set it up. We were just with a vendor probably a year ago, and it was just part of the package. And I'm like, yeah, sure. If it's part of the package, go ahead. And they would publish 3 articles a month because we have the Dealer On platform, which has the WordPress blog plugged into it. And I'd have to go back in and clean it all up. But since it was part of the package, but again, I'd still go into the analytics and look at the traffic, and they would sit down with our monthly meetings, go look at all the extra traffic that you're getting, and we've been able to improve, not so much conversion, but we've been able to improve just the overall traffic onto your site. And I was just like, so great, but we're not getting any more leads. And if we are, it's minimal. It's just traffic from all over the world or all over the States. And it's not making the phones ring.
Well,
it's not increasing the leads.
I'll share something here.
I would just get to the point. I'm like, I'm never going to be able to get into the top 5 because there's so many competitors out there, that I listed off before. Cars.com, Carvana's going to come up. They've just got some massive budgets to SEO.
Well, here's the thing. This is in my opinion, and I'm going to try and say this in such a way that doesn't get me in any trouble, but to respond to some points that Kevin's making, and it sounds like Drew Amint's going right behind and agreeing. I know Chris Leslie is. So basically, why would you pay thousands of dollars a month for SEO? And the real reason, in my opinion, is because it's been sold so hard. So marketing or advertising for an ad agency, especially when it comes to digital ads, have very small margins. They're like 3%, right? And most technology companies are judged on their valuation on their margins. And, you got to hit certain margin points for different genres of things and whatnot. And maybe pay another company because if you want to be in OEM programs and that kind of thing. So it really, really crushes the margins when you're in the advertising business. And a lot of website companies are. But SEO is mostly manpower. It's a human being over there, and a lot of dealers aren't paying a lot of attention to it, not grinding too hard on it, and their sales team gets bonus on it because the margins are crazy high. Crazy high. So if, let's say I'm getting a fee for handling digital advertising. Let's say I get $800 a month fee. There's a lot of work that goes into that. There's people handling all that and everything. And I still have basically the same amount of work where I can go over to the SEO side and maybe get $1,500 a month. And in the margins, because, the amount of touch points, the times you've got to play with it from the vendor side is a lot less.
Yeah.
And, you can get margins that are above 80% with that product. So you push and push and push and try and get the spend higher and higher and higher on it. And that's why I think we have this thing. And I'm hopefully not treading on anyone here, but that's my opinion.
No,
it's all a great sales pitch.
Yeah, it is a great sales pitch. It really is. And it's again, most dealerships don't have someone at the dealership, even to this day, to know that it is nothing more than a sales pitch. They just sort of get stuck. If I wasn't at this dealership, and they still had that agency on, they'd still be throwing up, look, we've increased your traffic by 6,000 visits more a month, 20, 30, 40%. It's like,
and they all typed in Mercedes-Benz of Hagerstown.
Yeah. But the GM's going to look at that and go, oh, well, man, that's great. All this extra, man, they're really doing a great job. But they're not selling any more cars. So, Eric says, thank you so much. And what we'll do is we'll do a part 2 with him. I know we got some open slots, next month or something like that. We'll see if he get him back on and answer some of these questions. And before we leave, what I was going to ask you, Alex, is what do you guys do for SEO with Freaking Tech?
We don't. Just build a website. Use some keywords splashed around from time to time. My wife gave it a little audit when we first launched the site, but I haven't asked her to do that in probably like 2 years now.
How come? Why? Just focus on other channels of marketing?
Just haven't thought about it, honestly. Now that you're asking me the question, I'm kind of like,
Jessica.
Yeah, you just got some really nice new shoes. Let's
Yeah. I guess you just have to figure out what to optimize for. Wouldn't take much for you to get that plugged in. But it's another one of those things. If you're busy and things are coming, and especially dealerships are always guilty of this. When things are going well, you're not looking at that stuff. You're not considering that stuff. And again, that's why SEO becomes so difficult. It's because dealerships, they're that month to month, and SEO is not a month to month thing. So we'll have to get Eric back on, because I had a few questions, as we talk about on-page SEO and optimizing the dealership website. There's still the other channels of Google My Business. Where's that at? Where's that going? How do you get into that? What was it called? PEE? I wonder how you optimize to get into to get into that section of the search results.
Sorry, I think you said PPE. Isn't that like medical protection?
That's where all the dealerships made their money last year.
Oh, there's too many damn acronyms. It's the questions answer or question answer section. Google.
Correct. But if anyone has any questions around SEO, reach out to Eric. He's always over in the forums, where you can just post a question. I'll make sure he gets it. And check out Dealer Teamwork. I know they've got a whole SEO package. And again, every time a dealership asks me about SEO, I'm like, outsource it, but make sure you outsource it to the right company. Mm-hmm. Someone should have, and maybe we should put together something like this, like what to look for in an SEO vendor. I know there's articles out there. I know there is. They might be a little dated, but I'm sure they would still carry over to today. And for some odd reason, I think there's actually something on DealerRefresh around that in the archives somewhere. I'll have to check it out and see if I can't bump it up to the top.
Yeah. So. It's only set, what are we, January? So we're really
January
60
28th.
Days or so away from having our 17th DealerRefresh birthday.
Yes. Yep. We're getting there. So.
Yeah, there's a lot of content.
All right. Yes, Drew, give me a call, man. I got some funny stories around. I actually sold that URL once I left the dealership. I held on to it, and the dealership, it's SEoh now, but it was Sherritt Automotive Group, and I was going to sell it to them. I had a price tag on it because it was getting a ton of traffic for what it was, and dummy me, I didn't accept. I gave them a price. They said, no, we're not going to pay you that much. And really, it wasn't that much. And after, I think it was like 3 or 4 years later, I wasn't paying attention and the URL expired. And don't you know it? Will Perryman, the owner of Sherritt Automotive, he must have had a little alert put on GoDaddy or something like that and snagged that URL as quick as he could. And that's funny that it still goes to SEoh now. That's hilarious. So yeah, you'll have to give me a call. We'll have to catch up around that. That's funny. All right, man. Well, we'll try and get Eric back on ASAP, be able to answer some of these questions. And we need to get Kevin Fry back on because I'd love to dive into what he was talking about. And, I guess it's a little bit different perspective on it. Need to get Drew on.
We got a whole year of shows to plan for.
Yeah, and if Ryan's watching this, I sent you an email 2 weeks ago. I know you went through a lot of different personal things going on. Sorry again about that. Definitely in my thoughts, reading your post and everything. But I did send you an email. Maybe hit your spam folder or something like that. But reach out to me. Let's get you on the schedule. And we also need to get John over at Driven Data. So.
Oh, there's so many, and I'm just looking through the comments too. Also, don't want to forget Chris Leslie. He hasn't appeared in a long time.
Yeah, I know. I haven't seen him in the forums forever. Yeah, good point. All right, man. My headphone's about to die.
All right. Enjoy your weekend, everyone.
All right.